All the information shared in this video is available on the public platform. Nothing is discussed here which may breach the confidentiality of our armed forces. Defense Detective respects our defense forces and works only on the information that is available for public use.
It's the most impressive economic success story of our time. But today, that success looks shakier than ever.
Spent a lot of time talking about the youth unemployment problem in China, but government's got an elegant solution to that. Just stop reporting the numbers. Problem solved, right?
Well, China's economy is suffering from the opposite, deflation. Consumer prices declined in July for the first time in more than 2 years.
These government measures aren't enough to pull the economy out of its current slump.
What economists all over the world have been saying since many years. What institutions like the World Bank and the IMF were having apprehensions of, and what China had been denying for a long time, has now come true. China has to accept now that its economy is in a bad shape, and questions are being raised about it. What happened that has put a brake on China's super fast growing economy? Why is China, which gives loans to various countries across the world, is itself drowning in debt? Why are big manufacturing companies fleeing China, which was once considered the world's production hub? Why is the world's number 2 economy faltering? Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Defense Detective Global. About 3 or 4 years back, people had started saying that China would soon start disbursing more loans than the International Monetary Fund. It seemed that China would soon overtake the US economy and become number 1. But in the process of giving loans to the world, its own economy got dented. China is currently the second largest economy in the world, with a GDP of $19.35 trillion. It is the world's biggest manufacturing hub. More than 28% of the world's goods are manufactured in China. That is why China is called the world's factory. But now it is facing a crisis. This was revealed when the Politburo meeting of the Communist Party of China was held in Beijing on 24 July this year. The Politburo of 24 members was headed by President Xi Jinping. It was decided in the meeting that the property sector would be reformed to deal with the debt. Measures will be taken to reduce growing unemployment. Along with it, steps will be taken to increase consumer spending. It means that China is not directly saying that there are problems in its economy, but preparations are being done to deal with the debt, to revive the sinking property sector, to reduce unemployment, and to increase consumer spending. These preparations are indicating clearly that everything is not going well in China's economy. China's budget deficit has reached 7.4% of its GDP. China's total debt is 21.4% of its GDP. According to CEIC, that is Census and Economic Information Center, which is the official website of Montana government of the US, the debt pressure of China is increasing every year. As per CEIC, in December 2005, China had a debt of $404.1 billion. In 2021, it increased to $3,651.5 billion. Just 1 year later, that is in December 2022, China's debt burden increased to $3,750.7 billion. This is an all-time high debt on China. Just think that China, which was disbursing loans to the whole world, is itself caught in a debt trap. But how did this happen? We will give complete information about it in this video. You must have heard the saying, shoot oneself in the foot. But China has not shot itself into foot, but its head. Behind China falling into a debt trap is its policy in which it was trying to ensnare the developing and poor countries of the world in its debt trap. The first shot which China hit its head with is the Belt and Road Initiative. This is the dream project of Chinese President Xi Jinping. The project, which started in 2013, was earlier named One Belt, One Road. China wanted to strengthen its global position through this project. After the recession in 2008, China was also trying to boost its economy through this project, and it was able to do so in the beginning.
When the Belt Road was announced, it was just fascinating to see these industrial regulators, businesses, local governments hurrying to seize the opportunity to invest abroad. export abroad as well.
Although this project of China started with the old Silk Route, but soon it included the countries of Asia and the Middle East, as well as Europe, Latin America, and Africa. China has made deals with 148 countries for the BRI project. While this project includes some countries with strong economies like Russia, New Zealand, Bahrain, Qatar, Poland, and Portugal, on the other hand, it includes mostly poor and backward countries. To name a few, countries like Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Djibouti, Zambia, Kenya, and Ethiopia, whose economy was in a poor condition, are a part of this project. China's entire focus was on such countries. It would be wrong to say that the BRI project was a complete failure. BRI has constructed many mega projects in these countries. Highways, power plants, rail networks, and commercial and residential space have changed the face of these countries.
Positive impacts is the spreading optimism that you find among developing countries or what used to be called the third world or fourth world, that this can now be transformed, that their countries can be transformed by linking to the Belt and Road.
The idea of the Belt and Road Initiative was to develop connectivities between China and the global south. The bulk of Belt and Road financing has gone into hard infrastructure sectors such as transportation, energy, mining, and projects of that sort.
But if the intentions are not right, then even the best project turns into a disaster. China, which talked about developing infrastructure in the world through BRI, had an aim to entrap the countries included in BRI in its debt trap. And when those countries failed to repay the debt, it intended to take control of their infrastructure. Along with this, it also had an aim to prepare its military bases in those countries. How? Let us explain. A research by Jonathan Hillman was published in the Center for Strategic and International Studies in 2018. Jonathan was then the director of CSIS's Reconnecting Asia project. The title of this article was Game of Loans: How China Bought Hambantota. In this article, Jonathan wrote that when Sri Lanka started work for Hambantota International Port, it was claimed that by 2040 it would become the fifth busiest port in the world. Sri Lanka had also offered India to build this port, but India refused. China seized this opportunity. It not only built the port but also gave a loan for it. Hambantota International Port is the second largest deep water port in Sri Lanka after Colombo. It is operational since 2010. China gave a loan of $307 million to Sri Lanka for the construction of the first phase of this port. Generally, apart from the World Bank and IMF, all the countries that give loan to each other do so at a maximum interest rate of 2 to 3%. In many cases, it is almost zero. But China's rate of interest was 6.3%. After this, two things happened. On one hand, Hambantota was running in huge losses, and on the other hand, Sri Lanka was struggling with economic and political crisis. Sri Lanka couldn't repay China's debt. China, waiting for this opportunity, acquired 70% stake and 99-year lease of the port from Sri Lanka. So China took over Hambantota port by entrapping Sri Lanka in its debt trap. After this, China often started docking its submarines and spy ships at the port. Like Sri Lanka, South African country Zambia, which is also a part of the Belt and Road Initiative, is also trapped in China's debt trap.
That Zambia government, if you follow their data, by the end of 2021, the country owed a total of more than $17 billion in external debt. About one third of that, come from Chinese creditors. So mostly from Chinese national banks, Chinese investment in infrastructure projects.
China did the same thing with Uganda. China's Exim Bank had given a loan of $200 million to Uganda to build an airport. Around the year 2000, it became clear that Uganda would not be able to repay the loan. China was fully prepared to take over this airport in November 2021. But this created an uproar all over the world. Ultimately, China refused that it wants to take control of the airport. But a few months later, in February 2022, Exim Bank imposed strict conditions on Uganda to repay the loan. According to this, the income of this international airport will go to the joint account of the Uganda government and the Chinese bank and cannot be spent by the Uganda government unless it gives a fixed amount every year to repay the loan. like Sri Lanka and Zambia, Pakistan is also ensnared in China's trap. This year, Pakistan has a debt of 222.51 billion US dollars, which is about 95% of its GDP. And it is being predicted that by 2028, this debt will increase to 408.5 billion US dollars. China also has a big role in debt-ridden Pakistan. Chinese loans account for 30% of Pakistan's total external debt. China has given loan to Pakistan for China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. In December 2022, China gave a bailout package of $9 billion to Pakistan. And in March 2023, it gave a loan of $700 million US dollars to Pakistan. CPEC is a part of Belt and Road Initiative. China built a road through the land captured from India till Islamabad in Pakistan. It also built a port in Gwadar in Balochistan. But experts are saying that like Hambantota, Gwadar too is facing shortage of business. And CPEC will prove to be a loss-making deal for Pakistan. 91% of the income from Gwadar port goes to China's account, while only 9% goes to Pakistan, which means that even in profit sharing, China is giving just peanuts to Pakistan. Pakistan old friend US had also warned it about this.
What are the long-term effects in Pakistan of Chinese financing practices, and what are the burdens that have fallen on the new government to manage, with an estimated $15 billion in debt to the Chinese government and another $6.7 billion in Chinese commercial debt? Because it's clear, or it needs to be clear, that CPEC is not about aid. This is almost always the form of loans or other forms of financing, often non-concessional, with sovereign guarantees or guaranteed profits for Chinese state-owned enterprises that are repatriated to China.
This warning by Alice Wills is 3 years old. Not only this, many experts believe that China has no interest in improving the condition of Pakistan.
Now that interest went to zero after the Taliban took over Afghanistan. So basically, the current crisis comes from the fact that the United States has entirely lost interest in Pakistan.
So the day is not far when China will have complete control over the CPEC project. Along with this, in the name of securing its investment, China has also started deploying its military in Pak-occupied Kashmir, which is also a threat for India.
Many of these countries would still welcome Chinese loans and Chinese investments, despite the fact that they've themselves experienced the difficulties that these quote-unquote bad loans may bring. And for China, it is quite important to, still have a footprint and a presence in these countries, regardless of how the debt repayment will go. Therefore, this is quite an important issue for China, not just in terms of the CCP, so not just in terms of the Communist Party, but also in terms of its people. Because Chinese people have been always quite reluctant in seeing China investing so heavily abroad when they would like it to invest more in the home economy.
The latest case is from Italy. It was the first country which joined BRI even after being a developed economy. Not only this, Italy was the only G7 country which had joined hands with China on BRI. This deal was done in the year 2019, but in just 4 years, Italy came to know about the tricks of China. The Italian government is now looking for ways to get out of this deal. In May this year, Italy's PM, Giorgia Meloni, said that Italy's relations with China can be good even without BRI. This was a big indication that Italy wants to withdraw from BRI. On 30th July, Italy's Defense Minister, Guido Crosetto, clearly said in an interview to a newspaper that joining the BRI was a big mistake for Italy. He said that only China has benefited from this deal. Italy's exports have decreased significantly while China's exports have increased. Italy's economy is strong, hence it was safe from the debt crisis and China's debt trap. China had inflated the balloon of a wonderful future in front of the world, tricking them for railroad connectivity, power plants, solar and wind power, dams, pipelines, and communication network. Many countries got entrapped in China's trap, and now loads and loads of debt is on their heads.
So the economic fundamentals of many of the recipient countries of the Belt and Road has been deteriorating for a few years now, roughly starting in late 2010s. So this was already the problems were already kind of accumulating pre-corona. And then the COVID pandemic exacerbated those problems. And then you had the energy price shock, the oil price shock, you had the global inflation. following with the increase in interest rates in the United States and with global interest rates going up, all those debt payments become more expensive because many of those debts are actually linked to global interest rates, so they are not fixed, but floating rate, right? So there are many ingredients that have put the recipients of Belt and Road credit into problems, and the result is growing debt distress. And
Now you must have understood how China trapped not just one or two, but more than 140 countries of the world in its trap. But sometimes too much cunningness can outweigh you. Same thing happened with China. Many countries, facing the pressure of China's expensive loans, have given up on repaying the loans. Now these countries are demanding debt relief, relaxation in debt terms, and extra time for debt repayment from China. This is a major setback for Chinese economy. Moreover, China also has to give bailout packages to these countries. A World Bank study found that China released 128 bailout packages for 22 borrower countries between the year 2000 and 2021. The total bailout package was $240 billion.
So the Belt and Road Initiative is facing increasing difficulties, especially the debt side. And this study is shedding light on how Chinese creditors, how the Chinese state is reacting to the growing debt problems of the recipient countries. The novelty is really that we show that Beijing is providing fresh money in response to the growing debt distress. They are bailing out countries just like the US had bailed out the Latin American.
So it is clear that China is suffering two-way losses. First of all, it is not getting the benefits from the Belt and Road Initiative as it was expecting. And secondly, China's money given to other countries as loan is stuck. Due to this, China's economy has come under crisis and it itself has gotten trapped in huge debt. Now, continuously giving bailout packages is also costing heavily to China. Its debt has reached 44% of its GDP. It is clear that the debt crisis of China has been invited by itself. The Chinese government has itself got caught in the debt trap by giving huge amount of loans to other countries. Along with this, China's local government finance vehicles called LGFVs are also under heavy debt. According to China's finance ministry, there is a debt of $5.14 trillion on the country's local bodies, whereas IMF is saying that this debt amounts to $9.5 trillion. According to S&P Global Ratings, the direct debt of China's local government is 120% more than its revenue in 2022. LGFVs are mechanisms for local government to raise loans for them from banks, trust companies, and the bond market. LGFVs release funds to the local government for development works or other purposes. But now the situation is such that banks have stopped giving loans to LGFVs and local governments are taking loans of up to 10,000 yuan from the public on WeChat. According to China's National Bureau of Statistics, the unemployment rate for people aged 16 to 24 reached approximately 21% in May. China's new Prime Minister Li Qiang promised 12 million jobs, which further increased the debt pressure on the local government. The problem is not only this. The unemployment rate figures that came in June and July this year also increased China's problems. China started being exposed all over the world. In a hurry, China took a big step to deal with it. What was that big step? You'll know from the heading of this article by BBC. According to this BBC report published on 15th August, China has suspended its youth unemployment data. In June, the unemployment rate in China was about 20%, whereas in July it increased further by 5.3%. So to avoid further insults and expose, China banned the publication of data. This way, neither the figures will come out nor anyone will be able to point fingers at China. If we talk about the current unemployment rate in India, then according to the report published in Forbes on 10th August, the unemployment rate has decreased in India. According to the data released by the National Sample Survey Office, between January and March 2023, there was 6.8% unemployment among people above 15 years of age in urban areas, whereas last year at the same time this rate was 8.2%. If we talk about the unemployment rate in the month of July, then according to Bloomberg report, this rate was 7.95%, whereas in June it was 8.45%. So the unemployment rate in India has decreased in July as compared to June. It means that in China, the unemployment rate is more than 21%, whereas in India it is around 8%. Though in terms of population we have overtaken China, but the problems of the Chinese economy are not limited only to this. Hidden debt has also become a huge problem for it. According to Goldman Sachs Group, the government debt in China is about 23 trillion US dollars, of which a huge value is hidden debt. There are many finance companies in different provinces and cities of China from which the local government has taken loans. There's no accounting of that loan. According to IMF, China's hidden debt is about 10 trillion US dollars. The hidden debt, along with internal and external debt, has weakened China's condition. Many local governments have closed public services. Bus services have been stopped in more than 20 cities of China. Gas subsidy is not being given to the public. There was also a cut in the medical benefits for senior citizens. In China, the local government itself generates its income. The responsibility of local development and total expenditure rests with the local government. State governments in China earn from revenue and bond sales. But the biggest source was the sale of land. All the land comes under the local government, which earns money by selling the land. A few years back, the Chinese government promoted the real estate sector in the country. High-rise buildings were built in small cities and millions of apartments were built. For this, the real estate sector bought huge land and filled the coffers of local governments. The COVID period completely put brakes on this. Real estate sector has come to a standstill. Even after relaxing the rules for buying flats, people are not buying property. Property investment in China has decreased by 21.5%. There are vacant apartments in cities like Shandong and almost every other city. A large number of cities with vacant apartment buildings now look like ghost cities. This has been a big setback for China. China is called the manufacturing hub of the world or the world's factory. But now a new problem is being faced by this factory. Goods are being manufactured at a rapid pace, but they are not going out. Finished goods are rotting in China's warehouses, and there are no buyers. China's exports have declined rapidly in the last 3 years. According to the data of China's Customs Department, there has been a decline of 12.4% in exports in June 2023 as compared to the last year. The coordination between the production and supply chain has gone haywire. Production is happening at the same speed, but the demand in the international market as well as the internal market is decreasing rapidly. Due to this, the prices of things are falling. China is facing deflation. Prices are falling, but there are no buyers. This is a big alarm bell for any economy.
It actually gets entrenched, meaning that it changes people's perception about future prices. So what it means is, for consumers, if they expect that the prices are going to fall in the future, then they will probably wait until later on to make the purchases. So that means that today's demand is going to fall. So then companies have to cut prices in order to attract customers. But then once you cut prices, then you get into this vicious cycle because you cut prices, that means your revenue is going to decline. And also that also means that eventually you will have to cut wages and possibly laying off workers. And that feeds through to households' income and also the decline in consumer spending.
There's one more big crisis faced by China's economy, that now the world is finding less benefits and more losses in setting up its plants in China. In the last 8 or 9 years, many renowned companies have said goodbye to China. Giants like Apple and Samsung have also shifted a major part of their businesses from China. In a report by Economic Times, it has been written, citing the European Chamber's survey, that 2/3 of 570 companies have said that doing business in China has now become very challenging. Foreign companies are being disillusioned with China. According to IIF, that is Institute of International Finance, in the year 2022, there was an outflow of $300 billion from China towards USA. This figure was $129 billion in the year 2021. In the first quarter of 2023, this outflow has reached to $772.88 million US dollars. So there are many reasons behind foreign companies leaving China. The first reason is the trade war between America and China. US has imposed sanctions on China regarding many issues like spreading COVID, putting pressure on Taiwan in the South China Sea, and torturing Uyghur Muslims. US investments have been restricted in 9 Chinese tech companies and tax on Chinese goods has been increased. As a result, companies setting up their plants in China started seeing their future in danger. Now, India is getting benefit from this. The second reason is zero COVID policy. After COVID, countries around the world started relaxing COVID rules to improve their economies, but China implemented zero COVID policy. Even if a single case of COVID was found, the entire area was sealed. This caused huge losses to the business in China. Businesses remained closed and unemployment continued to grow. The third reason is China's real estate crisis. Companies fear that if the real estate sector of China, which was growing fastest and had full support from the government, could get ruined, then they too could be in danger due to China's policy. The fourth reason is China's aggressive attitude. China often gets into conflict with its neighboring countries. It often clashes with Taiwan and Philippines in the South China Sea. It is usually in an attacking position on Taiwan. In such a situation, companies fear that their businesses may be negatively impacted in the event of a war. China stands with Russia in the Russia-Ukraine war. This is also one of the reasons why Western companies want to exit China. So the economy of the world's second largest economic superpower is going down. China is falling as fast as it was moving ahead. Experts are saying that if China does not improve its policies now, then the coming few years are going to be very difficult for it. In fact, China's dooming economy is not a good sign for the global economy, as it also impacts the world economy. It will also be interesting to see whether Xi Jinping handles his country's sinking economy or his dream project Belt and Road Initiative. That's all in this video. If you liked it, please tell us in the comments. And if you have not yet subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe it. See you soon with another video. Till then, goodbye. Jai Hind.